Men over 50 think their shoulders hurt because of age. That's wrong. Most shoulder pain comes from muscle weakness and then strengthening those muscles the wrong way. There is an exercise that fixes this better than anything else, but most men perform it in positions that pinch the shoulder joint. Because there's a part of the story no one is telling you. Your shoulder has a roof. And today, I'll show you how to train correctly under that roof so you can get your shoulders strong and pain-free again. After years of treating shoulder pain, one thing is clear. Most men aren't dealing with permanent damage. They're dealing with weak, unstable shoulders that were never trained with proper joint position. I'm a physical therapist and a wrestling coach, and I work with men over 50 every day. What I'm about to show you is how strong shoulders are built without the mistakes that cause pain and breakdown. Shoulder pain becomes more common as men pass 50. I treat men whose shoulders hurt after painting, doing yard work, or just trying to stay active. Most of these problems don't come from one big injury. They're usually the result of a weak rotator cuff. These are 4 small muscles that attach your shoulder blade, the scapula, to the upper arm bone called the humerus. The big deltoid muscles on the outside can't do a thing without the stability of the rotator cuff muscles on the inside. Think of it this way. The smaller rotator cuff creates shoulder stability, so the bigger deltoid muscles can create forceful mobility. If you want to avoid shoulder pain, you need strength. And if you already have shoulder pain, strengthening your shoulders is often the fastest way to reduce it or get rid of it. The most effective way to do this is with a barbell standing press. But here's the catch. You have to do it right. All right, let's take a look. Your shoulder has a roof. It's called your acromion process. When you strength train, the head of your humerus moves underneath that roof. If your arm position is off, a big bump on that upper arm bone, called your greater tubercle, bangs up into the roof and pinches the soft tissue that's supposed to glide smoothly in between. That pinching is a fast track to inflammation and pain, and if you've ever heard of bursitis, this is exactly how it happens in the shoulder. To strengthen the rotator cuff and the deltoid muscles, we have to do it right and avoid hitting that roof. Let's go to the gym and walk through it. We're going to use this wooden dowel because it allows us to learn the positions without heavy weight getting in the way, right? If we can't control the wooden dowel, then we certainly can't control a weighted barbell. And it's really important in the beginning to feel the correct position and technique without struggling through any form of resistance at all. So watch this video through, and then we're gonna get your wooden dowel, and then we're gonna get started doing this together. The big thing about strength training your shoulders is the position of your elbows, and especially where they're pointing. So let's get started. All right, when it comes to the standing shoulder press, one of the things we need to start with is where the barbell height should be on the rack, because you're gonna be doing the press on the rack as the barbell is actually sitting on your hooks for the starting position. If you watched the last video, you know that that is one of the beauties of barbell training is if you have no weight on the bar or a lot of weight on the bar, getting in and out of the starting and finishing position is always the same. So this is one of the great things about barbell training. But where to put the height for the barbell when we standing press. So where we want it is right between your chin and the base of your throat, right around here. We don't want to rest it on our shoulders. It's actually going to float a little bit in the space between our chin and the base of our neck. The width of our hands need to be just outside our shoulders, which might feel more narrow for you, but it's much healthier for your shoulders this way. The further out we go, the more we're going to pinch those soft tissues underneath the roof of our shoulders, right? That bump starts to keep itself underneath that acromion process. So we're going to keep ourselves a nice narrow grip, floating the bar between the chin and the base of our neck. From here, we are going to bring our elbows and point them forward, just like this. Now, what this does on the side view is it brings our elbows actually in front of the bar, which is perfectly fine. That's exactly where we want it. This takes that greater tubercle that we saw earlier and move it outside of the acromion process, that roof. So our starting position is three things. One, the bar is in between our chin and the base of our throat. Two, our hands are just outside of our shoulders. And three, our elbows are pointed forward. From here, in order so we don't hit our chin or our nose, I have literally gotten scabs on my nose from the middle knurling of a bar while doing the standing press, so we don't want that. We are going to hinge back slightly at the hips, not our back, because we're keeping our stomach tight, at the hips to clear the bar from our face as we drive with our elbows forward. As we're driving the bar to the ceiling, once the bar clears our head and we bring our body back forward, that's when our elbows can start to flare out, because at this point, those bumps on our shoulder have rotated down and away from the roof and can't bump into it anymore. So from the front view, once we hinge back and pop up this way, elbows forward, elbows forward, elbows forward, once we clear our head and we can come back forward, that's when the elbows flare out and we finish the drive up. And our biceps are now close to our ears. We shrug at the top. What this shrug does is make sure your shoulder blade is doing what it's supposed to do by rotating all the way to the top and clear that roof far away from any of the soft tissue in your shoulder at this top area. Now, to break this, all we're going to do is take your elbows and start to point them forward. Once you start to point them forward from this locked out position, it unlocks it. And you start to come back down. Elbows are still out to the side. I'm leaning back, but as I come down, my elbows come more and more and more forward. And here they are again, pointing completely forward to avoid banging into the roof. The three biggest mistakes people will make when strength training their shoulders. So in wrestling, when we train kids to win matches, we talk about risk reward for every technique and position that we have in wrestling, right? Every technique a kid does, there's a certain amount of risk and a certain amount of reward. And we train our kids to use the techniques that have the highest reward with the lowest risk. And that is exactly how we are going to strength train with everything. Doing any type of barbell work behind your neck for shoulder strengthening is high risk, low reward, and therefore makes no sense whatsoever to do. So you're going to see some people in the gym doing presses behind their neck. Don't bother. That is way too dangerous for your shoulders and offers no extra benefit at all. The second biggest mistake I see when people strengthen their shoulders is they put too much weight on the bar, especially for the standing press. So here's one of the biggest secrets, is that the standing press actually is going to train your ego and your humility more than it is going to actually train the muscles in your shoulder, right? Out of the core 4 lifts that we do, the standing press uses the least amount of weight and it progresses the slowest with adding weight on the bar. And honestly, the standing press is the very reason why I bought microplates. And the third biggest mistake I see people make when strengthening their shoulders is they combine 3 movements together that are absolutely horrible and dangerous for your shoulder. And those 3 movements are pointing your elbow out to the side, rotating your arm in any way, and then bringing it above shoulder level. That takes that greater tubercle and slams it straight into your acromion process. It's literally the perfect storm for creating shoulder inflammation and problems. So things like narrow gripped upright rows does the same thing. Once you start to bring the bar up to your shoulder level and above, you are rotating your arm in, bringing your elbow out to the side and then up above shoulder level. Another one that does that are people who will do lateral raises. Here, I'll move over to the side, and they'll start to point their thumb down as they come up above shoulder level. That also impinges their shoulder. So avoid that perfect storm of elbows out to the side, arms pointed in, and then raising it above shoulder level. Let's get back to the room. Brother, if this makes sense to you, take the next step. I lay out the bigger picture in my book, Grow or Die, which you can find on Amazon. And you can learn how to get stronger safely in the free strength training crash course on my website, Second 50 Strong. It's made specifically for men over 50, and again, it's free. Go there, start with the free material, and train the right way instead of guessing. If this helps, stick around. Everything here is built for men who want to thrive in their second 50 years of life. At the end of the day, shoulder health isn't about avoiding training or activity. It's about increasing strength in a way your joints can tolerate for the long haul. The standing press isn't dangerous. It's actually most likely the best thing you can do for your shoulder health. When you keep your elbows in the right direction, control the weight, and give your shoulders room to move under the roof, you're no longer fighting your anatomy. You're working with it. And that's how strengthening stops becoming something that breaks you down and starts being something that builds you up to thrive in your second 50 years as a man. So if your shoulders have been complaining to you, don't worry and don't quit. Slow it down, lighten the load, and master the elbow positions. Strong shoulders for men are always the goal, even if you already have pain. The difference now is precision. Train smart, stay patient, and keep pressing to live like a man who's not done growing yet. And always remember, most men fade, but you're not most men.